So as I alluded to in the last video, I'd like to split up this code more and create a Pokemon object rather than just looping through JSON I'm getting from the server. So I'm going to turn these off just to not hit the server 3 times, just hit it once while I'm developing. I'm going to create a class called Pokemon, and I want to be able to create it with a custom initializer. And all that means is it creates just a standard Python object, but I can also pass an extra thing into it. And the thing I want to pass in is just the JSON data that's already been parsed. And because I'm able to do this, I'm sort of jumping in right here in this part of the code that I've already written. So I can just grab this abilities key in the exact same way, but I can assign it to part of the object. So this object now has an abilities key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Pokemon by calling that constructor for the class I just made, Pokemon above, and I'm going to pass in the parsed data. This is going to basically create an object called Pokemon for whichever Pokemon I created, and it's going to have abilities as a key that's set. So rather than looping through it here, it would be cool to loop through it in a function in this class. So let's say I want to say describe abilities as one of the things, as one of the features of this class, where you use it in another context. It would be just a function you could call. So maybe down here I want to call that. So I want to describe abilities, and let's run it. And it says name is not defined. This is because in here where I copied the code from, I presented name as the name of the Pokemon, but that's not actually going to be useful here. So what I would like to do is get the name of the Pokemon from the JSON data. So I believe the name is probably in here somewhere. So forms, I guess. I could pass in the name rather than trusting this. So let's just do that. So we're going to have the name and the data. And when I do that, I'm going to set the name to whatever I pass in my constructor. So it'll be self.name instead of just name in this case. So when I call create the Pokemon, I want to pass the name as well. Abilities is not defined because I need to call self.abilities. Same kind of logic. And I do that here as well. Okay, so it's back to working the exact same way. It even had that same kind of weird debug output showing up. But okay, so Charizard has 2 abilities. So pretty much all the same code, except my actual logic is a lot smaller now, which is good. And the fact that I've made it a class makes it sort of easier to reason about. So one of the things that I might want to do is collect all the abilities for, you know, a variety of Pokemon. So let's say the Pokemon that I'm interested in are Charizard, Eevee, and Mewtwo. I'm going to loop through each one, and I'm going to create a new Pokemon. And then I'm just going to describe its abilities. And I need to pass in, let's see, what do I need to do? Well, I actually need to call print Pokemon again. It's not really what I want to do though. What I'd like to do is sort of generate or create a Pokemon. So what I'm going to do instead, so this is a factory method is what it's called when it returns a new object. So I'm going to get rid of this stuff and I'm just going to return the Pokemon back. So it's sort of like the constructor, except it's dependent on an API, so I don't want to put it in the actual constructor, although we could do that. Let's just use it as a factory for now though. We're going to create the Pokemon from the name, new Pokemon, and let's call describe abilities. And it's back to showing this code with the three different Pokemon. But I'm just I've got a sort of simpler way of calling all this. Let's do one more thing. Let's add a new function, because without adding a new function, it's maybe hard to see why it's valuable to split it up this way. Let me clean up using this JSON validator. Let me clean this up so we can read it a little bit easier. So you have abilities, and then we have forms, which game the Pokemon it is in. We have all this data we could use, the items that they can have, I guess. Something more basic, maybe. Shouldn't there be just like, oh yeah, move. I assume that's under moves. Sure that is called moves. See it here, I need to use a better editor that can actually collapse this, I guess. Well, let's just assume that it's called moves. And just to test it, I'm gonna make sure when I create this, when I create a Pokemon, I'm gonna call moves and print it just to make sure that it's there. Okay, it is there. All right. We'll just do the same thing. And instead of describing abilities, we'll say describe moves. For move in moves and self, let's print just the name of the move. That's all I really need to do for the purposes of this demo. So this would be the name. Okay. Now instead of describing the abilities, we're just gonna describe the moves. So you can see how this code didn't change very much. I had the same problem as before here. Let's see. Doesn't have ability name. Move.name. Oh, I think I just, yeah. This is a dictionary, so it's a string key. Or it just doesn't have that key. So what does it have? One trick in Python you could do is to call the dir command. And that will tell you all the keys of an object, which is quite a lot here. This is just a dictionary though, so that's, I just need to see the keys of the dictionary. And you see move. So it's kind of like the ability thing earlier. You have to call move, then it can call name. Okay, here's a big name of moves. Just for making it easier to understand, we should probably, announce that it's this Pokemon's moves list. And we'll format it just like before with the name. Now it's a bit easier. Theory. Did that many moves? I guess it is. So you can see Eevee's moves, all this stuff. I guess these are moves that you can possibly get in the game or something. Long list. Mega Punch, Payday, Fire Punch. And they're different. Sand Attack. These are very similar. I guess these are just all the compatible moves. Maybe because there's so many, we'll change the formatting a little bit. And instead of printing the move every time, we could just print a space. So I guess we need a Python command for printing without a new line. So Python print without new line. Looks like I'm not the first person to search for that. Like a printf is what I'd like. Never. How many ads? I don't think they even say print without a new line, but with a space. Terminate your print statement with a comma. Okay, that's Python 2. And that's pretty weird. Python's weird, in my opinion. I think we can end it with a comma instead. Yeah. That's a little easier to read. Still kind of hard to read, and it leaves this trailing comma, but it's a little bit easier. So anyway, this video, what is this video about? This video is random reconfiguration to add a class and a describe abilities function, and then some reformatting. I'll plan the next video a little more thoroughly. All right, thanks for watching.